Hey everyone, happy hump day. It is Wednesday. We're going to do Wealth Wednesday. And you know, I always like to say that your health is your wealth. And I'm going to share a story of a new client of mine. And I have her permission. Of course, I will not divulge who it is and you won't be able to guess or anything like that. But I want to share her story for a couple of reasons. Number one, because I want you, if you have been told by your traditional doctor that your labs are normal, even though you feel anything but normal, or if you are letting them know, hey, I'm not tolerating this medication, but they're telling you, keep taking it. It's the only thing that will help you. Or if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, am I going crazy? Like, is this really all in my head? Because people are just writing off your symptoms, or if they are just looking at their one little slice of the pie. And what we call that is siloed healthcare. And why we call it that is because you can have a farm and you're going to store just one kind of grain in one silo. You might have multiple silos on your farm, but they're all going to have their different kind of grain or whatever. Some are going to have corn, some might have soybeans, some might have wheat, some might have whatever. So in our traditional healthcare system, we do the same thing with our bodies and with our health. We go to a gastroenterologist for obvious gut symptoms. We go to a neurologist for things like back pain or nerve issues or weakness. We go to our GYN for what we think is hormones or female hormone or male hormone related. We go to our kidney doctor for kidney issues. And so we're just broken up into these little pieces. And what I cannot ever stress enough is, number one, you are the expert of you. When you have that gut feeling about something and when you think this isn't me, this came out of nowhere, what I'm doing is not making it better, or what I'm doing is making it worse, I want you to continue to advocate for yourself, and I want people that are taking care of you, I want them to have to prove to you that what they're saying is right, rather than just the old, listen to me, I'm the doctor, this is what it is, that sort of thing. Because we're really not taught to think outside of the box a lot in traditional medicine. Functional medicine, we are absolutely taught to think outside of the box. We are taught to take all of your symptoms that might seem unrelated, and we're going to find the common ground, and we're going to look very deeply at that. Root cause, core cause, whatever you want to call it. But that is the beauty of functional medicine, and that's what functional medicine is supposed to do for you. So, I want you to advocate for yourself, and I want you to stand up for and keep saying the same thing over and over and over again. And if they're just giving you the same answer over and over and over again, I want you to seek someone else, because that is a form of medical gaslighting, and I don't want you to have to deal with that. You are the expert of you. You know, you can trust your gut that something is wrong, that this is not normal for you, that this is not just whatever they're explaining it as, that there is something that needs to be evaluated and investigated a little bit further. And then the second thing is that I want you to be sure that when you are getting sent to this specialist and that specialist and this specialist, that you are constantly reminding them of all of your symptoms, so that you are keeping it in the front of their mind, or you're forcing them at least to hear this whole constellation of symptoms, because I guarantee you that there's a common thread. I guarantee you that when you pull the layers back and you look deep enough, that you are going to find what's caused all of those symptoms. And I hear it a lot, even with thyroid issues. We have people that are on thyroid hormones, and they're like, I still feel like I'm hypothyroid, or I still feel like my thyroid is too high, and they're letting their doctor know, I still feel as bad as I felt before, or I feel, the opposite way. And all they're doing is looking at labs and they're saying, well, your labs are normal. Well, there is something to be said for symptoms, because your labs are showing what's in your blood. They're not showing what's in your cell. And we need to know what's in your cell. And there's a lot of things that affect your cell membrane, your receptor sites, activation of hormones, whether they get into the cell and they're able to do their job, or whether they don't get into the cell, or whether they get into the cell and they're not able to do their job because of something else that's causing a problem. So, just advocate for yourself. Make sure that everyone knows your whole constellation of symptoms, and that you keep a record if you have to. So here's what happened to my friend. Out of the blue, she had just anxiety. Like, she just had a lot of belly pain. She had a lot of anxiety, and that is not her. Now, she is a little bit of a worrier. So she's kind of always been that ever since she's had kids. She just attributes it to kind of being a mama bear, if you will. And so she's just been a little bit of a worrier throughout her adulthood, ever since she's been a mom. But she's always been on top of her game. She's always been a great employee. She's always been super smart, very organized. She gets stuff done. That's her. But she went from that to overwhelmed with anxiety, feeling like just impending doom, feeling like she was going to die, feeling like something was terribly wrong with her. And she went to her OBGYN, because for women, a lot of times that's the easiest person to get into. So she went to her OBGYN and just made them run labs on her, and her labs were all quote unquote normal. Now, I've since had a look at those labs. Now, these labs were 6 months ago, because she's been dealing with this for 6 months, and we finally have some answers for her. So she sort of forced the hand of her GYN provider, and they got some labs. All were normal. But when I look at those labs, I see inflammation in her white count. I see that the number of neutrophils in her differential was higher, meaning that she's either stressed out or she's got some type of inflammation or infection going on. I saw that her calcium level was elevated. I saw that her chloride was low, which tells me that she doesn't have enough gastric acid. I saw that her hemoglobin was a little elevated, which might just mean that she's dehydrated. So I saw abnormalities in a lot of areas of her labs. And that was just kind of pushed under the rug. And this anxiety was treated with an anti-anxiety or an antidepressive medication. She was put on Lexapro. And after 3 days, she felt like she was going to come unglued. She literally just could not take the medication longer than 3 days. It actually compounded what she had going on with herself. And so they switched it. So they switched from Lexapro to Prozac. And again, she just felt like it was the wrong thing for her. She felt like this was just making it worse. But she kept being told, nope, keep taking it. It's just the anxiety. Keep taking it. It's just the anxiety. And they offered her anti-anxiety medication, Xanax, which they encouraged her to take, which is totally fine if you need these things. And I'm not bad mouthing antidepressants, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. For some people, that is the right thing to do. But what I'm telling you is advocate for yourself. Make sure that you don't stop, and that you keep telling everyone that it is taking care of you the whole constellation of symptoms, because they all go together. So she started taking Xanax. Now she's on Prozac, and she took it for 34 days. She could not tolerate it anymore. And in that 34-day period of time, she lost about 40 pounds of weight. She's not sleeping. She had to go on a leave of absence from work because she just cannot function. She actually also advocated for herself, but really demanded that, and instead of just trying another antidepressant that might even make her feel even worse, that they send her to a psychiatrist. And they actually gave her a leave of absence from work. The psychiatrist, she demanded that she get some genetic testing done to see how her gene profile is. And what that showed, and this should have been the clue for what was done after this, but there was still quite a delay in actually putting all of this information together. It showed that she has an MTHFR variant, which shows that her MTHFR protein is only working about 30 to 40%. So when she was eating enriched foods, artificial folate, those sorts of things, that it was actually it was sort of gumming up her whole detox pathway. And so that was just compounding the situation and making it worse. But more importantly than that, she actually had something called a COMT gene, which tells us how well your body processes the neurotransmitters in your body. Estrogen, which is considered a neurotransmitter, dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, like those are your neurotransmitters. And so her body has kind of a complicated genetic misspelling in that sometimes she over metabolizes them, and so she has less than what she needs, and sometimes she sluggishly metabolizes them, so she gets a buildup of some of the neurotransmitters. And so you can imagine when she's taking these selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors that she was taking for the anxiety, that it was just compounding the situation. And so she actually got put on a different medication that has helped her. She's on a low dose and it has helped her, but she's still been anxiety ridden to the point that she feels like there's just something horribly wrong with her, that she's going to die at any moment. She's had chest pain, palpitations, and she's in the medical field, so she has access to a lot of people. She sought out a cardiologist that she knows very well, and she actually was put on, at the time, her blood pressure was a little elevated. This girl's never had high blood pressure issues, but the knee-jerk reaction is that they put her on 3 different antihypertensive medications that just made her feel even worse. So now we're into this pill for every ill. No one is listening to what she is saying. Everybody's thinking that because she's saying that she's anxious, that it's kind of all in her head, to the point that she starts believing that, even though in her gut she knows that this is not right, that there's something terribly wrong going on with her. So keep going, we keep going. And then she seeks out a functional medicine practitioner here in town. And that person orders the best test that they could have ordered for her, which is an oats test, which is kind of like, tells us, it's just a snapshot in time, but what it tells us is what her metabolism is doing and what do we see as these end products of metabolism. So it can point out whether she has some mineral deficiencies. It can point out her omega fatty acid profile, so that kind of points us to whether she's got a lot of oxidative inflammation going on. It can point us in the direction of does she have some dysbiosis or bacterial overgrowth in her gut? It points us in the direction of does she have toxins in her gut? And so what it showed is that she actually has yeast in her gut. And so before she even got those results read, she just needed to be reassured, and called this functional medicine practitioner, called her office, and still has not yet received a phone call back. She called multiple times and just needed to be reassured that they got her results and that they looked at them and that she's not going to die. Like, that's really all she needed from them. Still did not get a phone call. So that's when she reached out to me. And so today we were actually able to put together all of the information for her. So I just literally scooped all of this stuff that she's been dealing with over the last 6 months, put it all together, and I just basically told her, I said, everything, this was sort of the perfect storm. Everything that could have happened to you, like the worst case scenario that could have happened, has already happened. You know, getting put on the wrong medications for the genetic misspellings that you have, getting put on other ones that are just adding problems to the mix. But what really happened for this person is that she was kind of predisposed to have some issues with her neurotransmitters, but she was able to maintain. She's been able to function, you know, for 40 years without any problems. But what happened was that she actually had a UTI, which was probably a direct result from that yeast getting overgrown in her gut that kind of caused her microbiome to get out of balance, and that's what caused her UTI. So if you ever hear me say that your gut is the foundation to your health, I want you to remember this story, because this is an example in time, in that it was just that switch where she had a UTI that was treated with antibiotics that just got the imbalance further out of whack, and that yeast was actually able, it's a neurotoxin, so it was actually able to kind of overwhelm her already at-risk system, and just one thing after another, after another, after another fell until here we are. So what we've done for her so far is simple things, very simple things. We've actually just kind of given her an adrenal support drink that she's going to drink, the same one that I shared with you a couple of days ago that she's been drinking. We've simplified her diet in that we've removed those things that I tell you to remove anyway: gluten, dairy, seed oils, processed foods. We've actually had her to eat warmer foods, had her to eat cooked foods, because that's going to be more soothing on her gut. We've provided her with a supplement that's going to help calm her gut down, because right now her gut is inflamed. Oh, in this whole process, because she was having abdominal pain, probably because of the dysbiosis, and some of the bacteria actually caused fermentation in the small bowel that was causing the gut issue. The knee-jerk reaction when she went to her gastroenterologist was that this is quote-unquote gastritis, and they gave her a proton pump inhibitor, which further caused dysbiosis and further caused the good bacteria to die off and the bad bacteria, including that yeast, to overgrow in the gut. So again, like I said, every possible worst case scenario that could have possibly happened has happened to her, and it's just a cascade of one thing after another, after another, after another. Something as simple as calming that inflammation, giving her a simple antioxidant in the form of omega-3s, working a little bit on what she's eating and making sure that it's soothing for the gut, giving her something to calm that irritation in the gut down, and supplementing B6, because that is the bottleneck in all of this, is actually going to make her 100% better in just short order. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to do a gut test that tells us exactly what we're dealing with, not just the yeast, because I'm certain that she has yeast in her gut, but what other bacteria does she have that has overgrown because of the yeast? Because those are what we call opportunistic infections. That yeast is kind of a bully in the gut, and when yeast takes over, yes, it can cause sugar cravings, but that's the least of your worries, because for her, it just started off that cascade of one thing after another, in that she wasn't able to absorb nutrients as well. She got a little bit of a mineral imbalance, and minerals are the building blocks not only of hormones but also of our neurotransmitters, and that, because of her genetic misspelling, was able to push her over the edge and get the anxiety started. Yeast is also a neurotoxin. So that was the other thing. It caused that irritation. It just caused that to be compounded. So if you hear anything out of this story, I hope that you'll say a prayer for my friend. But we are definitely on the right track. We have a plan in front of us. We're going to be gathering a little bit of information as we go along, layering it on. But just being able to go through every part of this and to reassure her she's not crazy. She actually is the reason that she has a chance at feeling better, because she did advocate for herself, and she wasn't going to be told this is all in your head. This is just anxiety. This is just high blood pressure. This is just too much acid in your stomach, when all of those things were wrong. Every single one of those things were wrong. That there was a physiologic, a chemical reason for her to feel this way. And until you are able to look at it all together and you stop siloing your care, until you have a gastroenterologist looking just at your stomach and you have your GYN looking just at your female parts, until you have someone who's going to take the time, who's going to listen to what you're saying, and who's going to put this whole big picture together, then you're going to end up with what she ended up with. And I hate it for her. 6 months of struggling, weeks and weeks out of work, doubting herself, feeling like maybe she is just going crazy, feeling like she's going to die. Like, that's a horrible feeling. So advocate for yourself. Make sure that everyone knows about all of your symptoms, and that they prove to you that it is not what you're saying that it is, or that it is what they're saying that it is. And normal on lab values does not mean normal, that you need to peel back the layers and you need to look a little deeper. You need to look to see how those things are related, not how they're not related. All right. I hope that this encourages you. If you're someone who is struggling, if you're someone who is being told these things, just keep advocating for yourself. Keep letting them know that this is not normal for you, and you are the expert in yourself, for yourself. All right. I hope that this Wealth Wednesday has given you a little bit to think on. And as always, if you have health questions, or if I can help you with anything, please reach out. I'm always happy to answer questions.